This one you touched on, but I think it's worth going into perhaps in some more detail from the perspective that this question was asked from, which is, what does monitoring have to do with governance, and what is the gap with traditional APM solutions of the type that we are using today? Can't APM give us what we need?
One of the challenges with a lot of APM tooling is it's designed to keep track of your infrastructure, and that's a critical part of your work. You need to know that your server stacks are up and everything is working. There often are synthetic monitoring solutions integrated with some APM tools. They tend to have been added as an afterthought. They're not API native, they're not API first. And we've seen when we've been speaking to customers, it can take 3, 4, even 6 weeks in some cases to adapt those to work with the scenarios in open banking, particularly the security scenarios. And often it requires lots of variation in how the security model works, which opens up a question of, are you then providing data on like for like infrastructure? So API first needs to be API native. You need to think about what people are experiencing from where they are experiencing them. If we look at a typical fintech implementation, an application will be talking to or a mobile app, for example, for open banking from a third party, will be talking to an application running in a cloud data center, potentially anywhere in Europe, in the case of UK open banking. Not every, something like 30% of the TPPs we analyzed in European open banking have data centers outside of the UK, but are still working with UK open banks. So you need to start thinking about the overhead of what it means if you're on Google versus Azure versus AWS. We found, for example, IBM cloud performance is better than most of the others when it comes to the networking components. You need to factor those things into how you're building a solution, how you're maintaining it. And my last point, to come back to governance, is it's all about proof. If you're measuring using your APM tooling, which is an integral part often of your DevOps and infrastructure, is that going to be enough to prove to a third party that you're not just essentially marking your own work? You need to do things externally with something outside of the tool chain. You wouldn't ask, going back to my VW example, you wouldn't ask any organization to just give you their own proof that something is working. You'd want to see something from outside that. And that's what we mean by governance. It's actually looking at the runtime from the point of view of how your users consume it, using tools that have nothing to do with your overall delivery chain.